Alright class, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Let's see problem number 5.8 of chapter number 5 definitely, and of chapter problem. So in this problem, the problem statement gives us a truncated cone that has a height of 16 centimeters, and the circular faces on the top and the bottom have radii of 2 millimeters and 0.1 millimeters respectively. Alright, so and it says that the material from which that solid cone has been constructed has a conductivity of 2 million Siemens per meter. Alright, so this is what is given to us. A solid cone whose top has got the radius of 2 millimeters, the bottom has got the radius of 0.1 millimeter, and it is a truncated cone. We know that theta is equals to constant in spherical coordinate system is an infinite cone which starts from origin z equals to 0 and goes up till z equals to infinity. So theta equals to constant is definitely an infinite cone. So truncated one means that it has been made finite by cutting from the top and from the bottom, or either from the top or from top and bottom. So this is in these two ways a cone can be made finite. All right, so that kind of cone is known as truncated cone. All right, so this one has been truncated from the top and the bottom as well. The other way is to truncate the cone from the top, limit the higher limits of z, and the cone normally starts from z equals to 0. That's the other way, but in this problem it has been given to us that this cone has been truncated from the top and the bottom. So this setup which you are seeing here, which I have shown here, is not given in the problem. So but definitely if we want to plot a cone in a three-dimensional system, so the best coordinate system to work in is definitely spherical coordinate system, and the best way to orient that cone, or the best way to adjust the orientation of the cone is to keep that smaller radius down and the bigger radius up, so that we can give this shape some mathematical expression. So alright, so definitely it has been placed such that this truncated cone, which has been shown here, if you want truncate it from the lower side, it would start from origin. But since it has been given that it has been truncated from bottom and top, so definitely we have to do it like this. So these circles we should know by now. These circles are the result of intersection of theta equals to constant and r equals to constant. Right? So this one is for intersection of theta equals to constant and r equals to constant, and this is also the intersection of theta equals to constant and r equals to constant. This is smaller circle. So these circles they lie on a horizontal plane. So let's say the height at which the smaller circle is lying, that height is z1, and the height at which, with respect to origin, the height at which the bigger circle is lying, that is at z equals to z2, and the height of the truncated cone has been given to us to be 16 centimeters. All right, okay, so the radius of this circle has been also given to us, and we are representing these radii by rho, not by r, because we know that r in a spherical coordinate system is the radius of the sphere, not this circle, which is made by the intersection of the sphere and a cone. All right, and since these circles lie on the horizontal plane, so representing the radius of such circles by rho makes sense, because in cylindrical coordinate system we try to represent the radius of this cone, which definitely radius of the cylinder, which definitely lie on the along the z-axis, but the radius is measured along the any of the z equals to constant plane. So those circles have got the radius rho. So that's the reason why we are just using the notation rho1 and rho2 here. All right. So this radius, obviously, the distance between this point and this point can be given as the radius of the sphere. All right. So if I would just take this length and try and give this r1, it means that this r1 is actually radius of some sphere. So definitely there would be some sphere which I am not going to draw, and the distance between this point and this point, this can be given as radius of a sphere which is definitely bigger than this one, and has got the radius r. So imagine a sphere r equals r2 here, and you imagine a cone whose angle with respect to z-axis is theta. So theta equals to that, and r equals to r2. Intersection of these two gives us this circle, and r equals r1 is again a sphere, and the same cone intersect where they both surfaces intersect at. There's a smaller circle. All right. The other thing which has been given to us is conductivity of the material with which this cone has been made. We have to find resistance between the two circular surfaces, the circular surface at the bottom whose radius is 0.1, and the circular surface at the top whose radius is 2 millimeter. We have to find resistance R, capital R, resistance. Now this resistance is a macroscopic entity. This belongs to some device. So this is a kind of device which has been made here, and we want to find the radius of this device. Sorry, not radius, I mean resistance of this device. Okay, so now a hint has been given to us specifically, and it says that use some good approximations to determine the resistance between the two. We have to find resistance, and while doing so we have to use some good approximations. If this statement were not given in the problem itself, then we would not have any right to assume anything. Remember that many of the students are they are just, I've seen that they are making assumptions out of nowhere in the solutions, maybe because they are following certain online solutions which have been provided there, where no explanation has been given whatsoever to any unexplained step. So they are making their own assumptions. But remember, in solving a problem, until and unless we are allowed to make assumptions, we should not start making assumptions to our ease. Just because this may help us in solving the problem, we should not start assuming things or considering things or neglecting facts. We simply cannot do this in science, in physics. We cannot simply outrightly, without any explanation, use some approximation or neglect anything, or consider anything to be something else. So we cannot do this until and unless it has been asked to do. All right, so this is the only thing which has been given. So now definitely, if we want to find resistance is voltage divided by current. So the potential difference between these two phases and the current which will be flowing through here should be known. It means that at least we should know current density to find current using equation number 1, which I have been talking about previously. Current is equals to integral J dot ds, surface integral J dot ds. We must use that equation to find current. It means that J, that is current density, should be known to us, and R is equals to VI. R is equals to V upon I. So for current we need current density, and for V, which is potential difference between these two phases, we should know electric field intensity, because V is equals to minus integral E dot dl, the well-known expression. So let's try to start finding things which are unknown, which we can readily find in this problem, in this problem, and see that what kind of cone is it and what approximations we can make, or what assumptions we can make while solving this problem. So far we don't know that what this R1 is, or this R2 is, or what this theta is, how wide is this cone, either the cone is very wide or is it very small, very narrow kind of cone, which can be approximated to be a cylinder. It might be possible. So we have to see that. First of all, let's try to find this theta. So we know that tangent theta is perpendicular upon base. So for this smaller circle, this distance is perpendicular, which is given to us from z-axis to this end. This is 0.1 millimeter divided by this height, which is z1. So 0.1 millimeter divided by z1 gives us this angle theta. All right. Also, this rho 2, because this is also a right angle triangle here. All right. So this rho 2 divided by z2 should be tangent theta again. So tangent theta is equals to rho 2, which is 2 millimeter, divided by z2, which is nothing but z1 plus 16 centimeters. So I'm converting all the values into SI system, that is the standard, international standard. Okay, so this is equation number Aleph, equation number B. Both are tangent theta. Equating equation Aleph and B gives us what? Z, the location from where this cone is starting, the location at which the smaller side of the cone is present. So doing some maths, we get Z to be 8.4 millimeters, Z1 to be 8.4 millimeters. It means that this cone is starting from Z1 from 8.4 millimeters. Does it help us? Yes, it helps us in finding theta, either using Aleph, equation Aleph, or equation B. This would give us the idea how wide the cone is, or how small, how narrow it is. So I'm choosing to use equation number Aleph, using the value of Z1 to be 8.4 millimeters. It turns out that theta is equals to 0.68 degrees. It means that this cone is extremely thin. So it means that we have a very narrow cone with us. All right. Okay, so now, knowing the shape of the device, we can make some educated approximations. For a very thin cone in a spherical coordinate system, as we have developed over here, the diagram, we know that this circle is made up of R equals R1 sphere and theta equals to 0.68 cone. Okay, 0.68 degrees cone. So the portion of the sphere which is within this cone, if I would try to draw that here, it will be like this. I hope you would be able to see it. And this circle, whose radius is rho 1, is made here. If I would just magnify it, what you would see that here we go, this rho is equals to rho 1. I am magnifying this diagram or this situation. All right, this is rho, the radius of this circle is rho 1, and this circle is at height z1, and actually this has been made by the intersection of the sphere r equals r1 and cone theta equals to 0.68 degrees. So the portion of this sphere which is lying within, which is located within this cone is given by, perhaps, you know, this is the sphere, you know, I cannot show but you can imagine this to be a sphere, all right, whose shadow is this circle. So the area, since the cone is very narrow, the actual area of this sphere which is within this cone and the area of the circle would approximately be the same. So this is what I have written here. For a thin cone in a spherical coordinate system, the surface area of r equals to constant sphere. There's not only that, we are not talking about the whole sphere, but rather we are talking about the surface area of the r equals constant sphere which is within the cone is almost equals to the area of the circle formed at the intersection of that r equals constant sphere and the thin cone itself. So this thing, this fact, this approximation is not only valid for this small face of the cone, rather it is also valid for any circle within this cone. Okay, if I would just consider another circle within this cone which is definitely made up of some other sphere r equals r3, intersection of sphere r equals r3 and this cone theta equals to 0.68, the portion of r equals to r3 sphere within this cone, the area of this portion would be approximately equals to the area of this circle, because the cone is very thin, extremely thin. So this is the situation which has been drawn here is not point theta equals to 0.68. No, this is way bigger than that. So you can see some curvature, but if you would, you know, make it theta equals to 0.68, very narrow thin cone, this curvature would be vanished approximately. So the area of this sphere will approximately be equals to, almost be equals to the area of the circle. So if that's the case, so what would be, if we do this assumption, so what would be the consequence? The consequence would be that the current density, if you evaluate over this circle, the current density, either if you evaluate the current density at this circle, or if you try to be accurate and try to calculate the current density, magnitude of current density over the sphere, both will be approximately equal, because the surface, because the we know that the current density is the current flowing through some certain area divided by that area. So since the area of the circle is the same as the portion of the sphere which is lying within this cone, so either you take the current which is flowing through this cone and divide that current by this the area of the sphere or by the area of the circle, you will get the same amount of current density approximately, because the area of the circle and the sphere portion of the sphere which is lying within that cone is same. I am talking about magnitudes, all right. Also, J is a function of R. So this is first consequence. The second consequence would be J, this time vector J I am talking about, is a function of radius, that is radius alone, that is J is independent of theta and phi. थीटा एंड फाई के ऊपर डिपेंड नहीं कर रहा J. Thin, this is the consequence of the assumption that the cone is extremely thin. Okay. So definitely, if I would give you the cone of this shape, and I would ask you to find the resistance, what you would do, you will apply some potential difference across this, maybe plus terminal here on this circular face, minus terminal on this circular face, and you would try to calculate the current which will be flowing through this cone, and you will take the ratio of the applied potential and the resultant current, and you will get the resistance. So if you'd apply plus terminal here, minus terminal here, definitely the field which will be produced, okay, will be like this, in this fashion, plus here, minus here. So electric field will be in this fashion, in this direction. In spherical coordinate system is represented by AR. So the field will be in this direction, meaning electric field intensity will be in AR direction, and since we know that J is equals to sigma E, where this sigma is normal numerical constant, so J will share the direction of E. Whatever the direction of E would be, J will have the same direction. So not only that J is a function of R alone, rather J will also have only AR component, nothing else, okay. Okay, so as you go from lower heights to higher heights, obviously the area of the sphere which is lying within this cone, or the area of the circle, will start to increase. So we can say that the current density, which is nothing but current divided by area, since area is depending on R, only R, increase the value of R and you will be somewhere higher in this cone. Decrease the value of R, you will be somewhere at the lower locations within this cone. So area across which the current is flowing is depending on R, small r. That's the reason why J is a function of R, okay. J is not a function of theta and phi. It is not depending on whether you are here on the circle or here on the circle or somewhere within that circle, on the same plane but within that circle. Alright, so let's say this is height Z3, so you are maintaining height Z3 but you are moving within the circle, means that you're changing the value of phi and you're changing the value of theta. All right, you are not changing the value of, you are not changing the height, rather you're changing the value of theta and phi. Or if you are with at this point or this point or this point or this point or this point, any point within that portion of the sphere which is lying within this cone and making this circle by intersecting the cone, anywhere you are on that sphere, if you are on that sphere, as long as you are on that sphere, R is same, theta and phi is changing. So does it change current density? No, because current density is current divided by area. As long as you are on that sphere, the area which is seen by the current which is flowing through this direction towards higher levels, that area will not be changed unless you change the value of R, you increase the value of R or decrease the value of R. If you increase the value of R, the current which is flowing through this cone will experience a larger area if you increase the value of R. If you decrease the value of R, the current which is flowing through this point towards that point will experience a smaller area. So current density will be higher here because area is smaller, and current density will be lesser at the higher levels of Z or higher values of R if Z is if R is increased, the current density will have smaller magnitude. So the consequence of this approximation, which is quite valid actually practically, is that the current density over the sphere magnitude wise is same as the current density on the circle, which we have already discussed, and also that the current is a function of R alone as just described and not depending on theta and phi, and that J has got only one component, which is AR. Using these facts, if I take the well-known equation and replace J, because we don't know J, we have to find it. So we know that by this discussion, we will have to be general and write J as a function of R, and it has got a value, it has got a component which is AR. That's it. This we would not have been able to write it here had we not made this approximation and all the discussion which followed. So we were only able to write it like this with confidence because we have done this kind of approximation and gave the explanation. So in place of J, we should write J because we don't know what J is. What we know is that J is a function of R and it has got only AR component. So I should better remove this because this whole is actually making J vector. So the magnitude of J is a function of R and it has got only AR component dotted with ds. So over this sphere we have got this expression of ds. Now take the dot product, AR will be eliminated, R square can be treated as constant for a particular surface. All right, so variable of integration are theta and phi, so R is definitely constant. Now we have got this, so R is constant and any function of R is also constant. Why? Because variable of integrations are theta and phi. So R square and J, which is a function of R, can be taken out of the integral sign and the integration can then be performed. And remember that on the left hand side we have got I. Do the integration, do the maths, and you will get the magnitude of JR, which is equal to this. And in vector form, I just have to add AR unit vector in front of that. Now using this expression which I gave here, we can find E, and now we can find the potential difference between this phase and this phase. Field will be from this point, from this lower planes to higher planes. Okay, electric field will be like this. So if we move a positive jet charge from here to here, so this will be the initial point, this will be the final point. It should give us the potential difference between the two. So initial point will be this higher level and final point will be this lower level. So this well-known expression R2, R1, replace the values, E can be replaced here with AR dot. If we move from this point to this point for a specific value of R, the only if this from this point to this point, the only along this line, the only coordinate which is changing is actually dr. So dr AR. Take the dot product, it will be eliminated. This constant can be taken out of the integral sign, and within the integral what is left is dr r square integral. Now what about the limits? this R1 is nothing but R1 is nothing but can I say that Z1 is equals to R1 cos theta? Definitely I can say that. This is R1, this is theta, and this is Z1. So R1 is equals to Z1, which is 0.1 milli divided by cos of 0.9 sorry 0.68. What value are we going to get if we just evaluate it through the integration? 0.1 milli divided by cos of 0.68. What we are going to get is 0.100007 milli. So approximately it will be equals to Z1 because the cone is very thin. All right. So how about this R1? This R1, because cone is very thin, this R2 will approximately equals to this length because the cone is very thin. If you don't trust it, just evaluate Z2 equals to R2 cos theta, where theta is 0.68, and you'll get a value which will be approximately equals to Z2, meaning Z1 plus 16 centimeters. So for R2, what I can write is Z1 plus 0.16, Z1 plus 0.16, meaning this thing. So 0.16 plus Z1 is 8.4 exponent minus 3. 0.16 plus 8.4 exponent minus 3 is going to give us 0.1684. So instead of writing this whole thing here, I should write 0.1684, and as a top limit we are going to write Z1, which is point Z1 is did I make any mistake here? Z1 is equals to R1 cos theta, so 0.1 exponent minus 0.1 exponent minus 3 divided by cos of 0.68 gives us 0.1, which is actually a rho 1, not Z1, rho 1. So I think this is what I did wrong. So 0.1 exponent minus 3. This is what we have to do, and when we'll evaluate this integral, we should get the answer. Alright, sorry, my mistake. I did something terribly wrong here. Z1 is not 0.1, sorry, 0.1 is rho 1, so I put the wrong value here. So Z1 is 0.84 exponent minus 3 exponent 8.4, sorry, 8.4 exponent minus 3 and cos of this thing. Now this should give us a value which is approximately equals to z1. This makes sense, all right, because the cone is very thin, so this height will approximately equals to this length. So after integration we should get the answer. All right, so after integrating this expression, very simple integration, I'm not going to show the steps, you should do it. Remember, the lower limit is 0.1684, the higher limit is 8.4 milli. Do the integration, do the maths, you'll get this expression. A couple of steps after that step, you're going to get this. So V12 is the potential difference between these two faces, all right, and it really does not matter whether you take V12 or V21, potential difference between these two or these two, all right. Why? Because Ohm's law is isotropic, it does not matter. So potential difference divided by current gives us resistance, which is equals to 0.40 pi. Use your calculators and you are going to get 0.4 divided by pi, 0.127 ohms. This is the answer, and this is how you would solve this problem. And there is another way of solving this problem, we'll see that next. Alright, so second method is relatively simple, which makes use of the well-known expression which we had already derived in our class lecture, that resistance is equals to resistivity times length of the conductor divided by the surface area of the conductor. Remember that this expression we got through while considering a circular conductor, all right, which is equals to this 1 upon rho is sigma, or 1 upon sigma is rho conductivity. Since we have got a good approximation that this cylindrical conductor has got a very thin angle, so it's a very thin cone which can be treated as a cylinder. So you know, this can be treated as this cylindrical conductor because of that approximation. So it means that this expression, which was originally derived for a cylindrical conductor, can be used for this very thin cone conductor, solid cone. All right, so now we are making assumption while using this expression which was derived for a cylindrical conductor. While using this expression on cone or conical conductor. So making use of the approximation, we can apply this result again, which was for cylindrical conductor, on this conical conductor with little to no errors in the answer. Now, having said that, what we can do is divide this cylindrical conductor into very thin, discs of conductors, where each disc has got some certain area S, all right, and the thickness of that disc can be given as the length, all right. So since this is oriented along z-axis, I am dividing this cone into infinitely thin discs where the thickness is given by dz, since the cone has been oriented along the z-axis. So if I want to use now this disc can be treated as a cylinder, all right, because this is very small, the thickness of this disc is negligibly small, so this can be treated as a cylinder. So the resistance of this infinitely small thin disc can be given as the contribution of resistance due to this infinitely small, infinitely thin disc can be given as differential resistance. And we can consider this cone to be made up of these infinitely small discs, all right, stacked together. एक के ऊपर एक जत्था लगा के आपने उसको discs का जत्था लगा के आप cone form कर सकते हैं. So this cone can be considered to be a stack of infinitely thin discs, definitely of some variable shape. But since we are using the thin cone assumption, therefore we are not considering that to be different size. Anyway, so for this particular disk, the contribution of resistance to overall resistance is given by length of that disk, length which is dz, divided by sigma, and the area of the disk. If the radius is given by rho, then pi r square. And from this expression, we know that the radius rho is related to r, which is the radius of the sphere, and theta, that r sine theta is this, because this is a right angle triangle. There we go. I am highlighting this one, z-axis, this z-axis, this length r, and this right angle triangle. So, and this angle is theta. This angle is theta. So, this rho, which is the radius of the circle, is nothing but r sine theta, r sine theta. So instead of rho, what I can write, r sine theta or r square sine square theta. Now we have got this expression in which we have got the variable z. If we would integrate this expression to find the total resistance, the variable for integration will be z. Okay. So how about this r? Which value of r should we put here? If we change the value of r, definitely increasing it means we are going up within this cone. And as we are moving up, the area of the disk will be increased. Does not matter however small, but it will be increased. It means that this surface area here has been incorporated in this formula as a function of r. If we would try to integrate this, there will be some ambiguity. We won't be able to take r to be constant, all right, because as we are moving up in the levels of z, as we are moving, we are considering the disk of the higher levels or the lower level. If we change the level which is given by the z, r will also change. So it means that we should, we should replace the value of r in terms of z, so that these two variables can be treated as one, can be integrated. All right. So what we are going to do is find r in terms of z. So we had already used this formula, z is equals to r cos theta. So r is equals to z upon cos theta. So r is equals to z upon cos theta. So r square equals to z square upon cos square theta. Sine square cos square upon cos square is tan square. So now we have got constant variable. Now in order to find the resistance of the whole stack, we have to integrate it from z1 to z2. Sigma pi tan theta can be taken out of the integral sign, all right, and within the integral sign we have got this z1 8.4 millimeters, z2 we already know. Put the values of theta, sigma and pi, you'll get 1.13 exponent minus 3. Integrate this, you will get this replace the values, you are going to get the answer 0.128. Here we had 0.127, a relatively more accurate answer maybe, but the answers are approximately the same. Okay, so this is the second method, which may be, you know, less wordy, but has, however, used the approximation of the thin cone we are using. By the way, we are using this expression to find the differential component of resistance due to a differentially thin cone, the differentially thin disk, which can be treated as a cylindrical surface. All right, the smaller this dz, the lesser will be the effect of the cone. Since we know that dz is of infinitely small thickness, so actually the effect of the cone, which is the tilted sides, will be vanished. So this expression is actually quite accurate for the contribution of resistance due to this small disk. All right, so we can use this expression in this cones problem as well. If had we not have the thin cone, अगर thin cone नहीं भी होती, white cone भी होती, तब भी हम ये expression use कर सकते थे. Why? Because this dr would not be changed, because the thickness is very small. So the thickness is negligible. So the effect of the, you know, tilted sides of the disk would be vanished as soon as you take differential thickness of the cone. So this expression would be valid for wider cone as well. So let me correct myself here. Okay, so although this expression was derived for cylindrical conductors, but as soon as we are talking in terms of differential entities, so cone, if you divide it in differentially small disks, can be treated as a cylinder. All right, so now we do this maths and get the answer. So I hope you're able to get this. I wanted to show to work on this problem quite extensively. Why? Because I want to show you the depth in which the study of electromagnetics and electrostatics can go into. And remember that we are discussing electrostatics and slight deviation from electrostatics when we are considering currents over there. When we are considering currents, right? So we are deviating from electrostatics, but still we are not deeply into electromagnetics, in which the fields, in which the currents, in which the voltage changes with respect to time. We have not even touched the time dependent fields, but still you can see the depth in which this subject can take you into. All right, and this, if you take this course as an interesting thing to learn, then you will appreciate these kind of examples, and you'll be able to appreciate if you see such other examples or any research paper involving some weird form of, you know, conductor being solved for its resistance or fields or things like that. But if you want to learn this course just to get some marks and, you know, a normal conventional kind of student stuff, then you can take this problem as a burden as well. So with this, I would like you all to ponder over your motivation to learn engineering or do the engineering, or especially this subject, and then decide the way forward for you. So with this, I will say thank you very much and good luck. Assalamu alaikum.